And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Township of Douro-Dummer and the first meeting of the year 2022. Hard to believe where the time goes. Anyway, we welcome everyone. This meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube and is also being recorded for anyone who would like to watch it at a later date. So, welcome, everyone. I'd like to call the roll and make sure that everyone is here. First of all, Deputy Mayor Moher.
Here.
Good. Thank you, Carl. Councillor Watt is here.
Here.
Councillor Landsman.
I'm here.
And Councillor Watson.
I'm here.
Okay, that's great. We have all members of council are present, and members of our staff are also here. Our CAO, Alana Arthurs. Alana, big wave. Martina, our clerk. Martina, hi. Also with us, I believe, Chuck, our fire chief. Chuck, are you there as well? Good to see you. And also Paul Creamer, our treasurer. Paul, I believe you are with us as well, should you be required to answer any questions. Anyway, welcome, everyone, and I will officially call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock here on this 18th of January. We respectfully acknowledge that we're on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Ishibé, and we offer our gratitude to the First Nations peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please join us for a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you all very much. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest with any of the matters we're dealing with at our meeting? Okay, seeing no hands, we will indeed move on. I'd like a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as presented for this January 18th meeting, please. Moved by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Landsman. All in favor? That motion is approved. And before we go any further, I would like to take this very special opportunity to recognize one of our township's most accomplished citizens and her appointment to the Order of Canada. We're very proud of Dr. Betsy McGregor, a dedicated advocate for women, a tireless science educator, and a nurturer of new leaders. Betsy was named to the Order of Canada along with 135 other exceptional Canadians on December 29th. Betsy's accolades and accomplishments are too long to list and have focused on public policy, science, ethics, and gender, and included fellowships at Harvard Medical School and Harvard Kennedy School, work with the United Nations, and also a published author. We're delighted to have Betsy, a longtime resident of Clear Lake here in Douro-Dummer, and we want to congratulate her on her well-deserved appointment. Betsy, we're proud of you. Thank you. Okay, moving right along now. The minutes of the regular meeting of December 21st are before you. A motion, please. Councillor Watt and Councillor Landsman, all in favor. That motion is approved. Business arising out of the minutes. Anyone? Seeing no hands, then we'll move right through to delegations, petitions, presentations, or public meetings. And 8.1, we have a delegation tonight, Marie Howran, with a request for information about the township's vaccine policy. Marie, are you there?
Hello.
There
Yes,
she
I
is.
am.
Good. Thank you for joining us, Marie. And I will remind you, as all delegations, you have 10 minutes, and that will allow us time for any members of council who have any questions. So we'll turn it over to you for a 10-minute delegation. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm approaching this council this evening with the petition that has been signed by over 850 people who support our volunteer first responders and our municipal workers. This group of citizens do not support the vaccination policy that our township has mandated and imposed upon staff. In October of 2021, I sent a letter to this council requesting that they take an open-minded perspective to this concept of a vaccination policy, especially considering the changing landscape that the virus was presenting. However, our council chose to implement a punitive policy that was such that those members who chose not to receive an experimental vaccination were faced with termination. What is certain is that the landscape related to the virus is changing. Legal firms are now cautioning employers, especially those of non-unionized staffs, with the latest, a Toronto lawyer saying the following on January 13th in the Globe and Mail. The question we are all trying to answer is, can an employer in a non-unionized setting terminate an employee with cause for not getting vaccinated? In my view, they cannot, except in very specific circumstances, end quote. There are now thousands of legal cases pending against employers. I expect that our township will now be among these employers. Were the alternatives considered? Other neighboring townships have chosen to do this differently. In fact, the Niagara Regional Health just paused their policy because of the healthcare crisis that they're now finding themselves in. First responders in our township are hired first and foremost to respond in the event of a fire suppression need. Medical calls, I understand, comprise a heavier load of calls for our first responders. What our survey has taught us is that the vast majority of people do not seem to care as to whether a first responder is vaccinated or not. From our own policy, we were requiring that the unvaccinated submit to regular rapid antigen tests and wear PPE while attending all calls. The fully vaccinated, currently recognized as 2 doses by our policy, were not required to do this testing. However, from the Ontario statistics regarding the Omicron variant, we can now see that the fully vaccinated present an equal risk to the public in spreading Omicron. As such, it would seem that the legal team and the public health who assisted you with your policy may want to reconsider their stance. To follow the science, I invite you to look for yourself upon the data from Ontario's public health website, which I recorded today. You can go here, but for your ease, I've done this quick screen print. Clearly, there are 3 times as many vaccinated presenting in hospital with COVID than there are unvaccinated individuals. The ICU has 48% unvaccinated and 52% vaccinated. At this point, there would seem to be no notable difference in ICU admission of vaccinated versus unvaccinated. As the landscape further continues to shift and evolve, in the week following January 1st, Dr. Kieran Moore, Ontario's Chief Medical Officer, explained that up to 50% of the COVID hospitalizations are not a result of COVID. He said, many people are coming in for other issues that happen to test positive and are added to the COVID hospitalization count. Wow, these are really big shifts in data and in messaging. As of January, analysis is now available to indicate whether people are in ICU with COVID or due to COVID. In other words, how many people would be in the ICU whether there was a pandemic or not? What we can clearly see is that vaccines are only one part of a dynamic health response. Whether our public health people want to politically admit this yet or not, forced vaccination of an entire human population is not going to be on the right side of history. Natural immunity has to make its way back into any legitimate conversation about health for a road forward. I'm not here to teach you about what public health and your advisors should be keeping you abreast of. I'm here instead to bring your attention to this survey. Our township has been blessed to have some very amazing staff work for it, staff who truly care about the job that they do and the people that they serve in this community. Here are a few quotes from the survey that were given to us by these people completing the survey. Comment 1, as a wife to a 10+ year member, I don't even know where to begin to tell you how much of their time these men and women have given to our community. Their skills, dedication, time served are invaluable and irreplaceable. When that pager goes off, they run for whoever needs them, regardless of what they're running into or what it could be interrupting for them. their family time, their dinner, their sleep. They don't go because they have to, but because they want to help keep the community that they love safe. They want to be there for us. And now we need to stand up with them so that they can continue to be there when that pager goes off. Comment 2, where there is risk, there must be choice. As this injection may protect the user, but is not approved for, nor does it limit the spread of COVID. This policy does nothing to protect the citizens or the firefighters. It merely coerces individuals in direct opposition of their Charter of Rights. Comment number 3, man's law, government's laws, cannot work by themselves. The law has to reflect the spirit of the people that it serves, or its outside opposition being imposed upon them. For me, this is a question of what is right or wrong. And the way this vote has been done without regard for the consequences is flat out unequivocally wrong. Zacharias said, unless the law can be written on the tablets of the heart, it's no good just having it written on tablets of stone. The politically driven policies of the world today are not done from the heart, and therefore our hearts don't recognize their meaning when it comes to our well-being. Our well-being has nothing to do with what has been going on around us for these past 2 years. It is my understanding that on their last day of work on January 4th, the staff who were placed on leave without pay were not so much as issued a thank you letter from this township. There are many who hold hardness towards you, Mayor and Deputy Mayor, for the demeaning comments that were made publicly in a recorded session. These comments will not pass easily for either the staff nor the citizens of this township. I want to personally thank the employees of this township publicly for their service to the citizens and the township for the many years of dedicated service they provided. I want them to know that I personally respect their personal choice for bodily autonomy. On behalf of myself and the 850 plus signatories to this petition, we thank you and we appreciate you. I'm not certain to what degree this council has chosen to stay abreast of the issues arising around this pandemic. Some of the latest information is that to be considered fully vaccinated, you now must have 3 to 4 boosters and a flu shot. In Israel, they're up to their 5th booster. How many vaccines will it take for you to be considered by your staff as fully vaccinated? What is going to be your approach as more and more of the staff decide against these unlawful protocols? Ultimately, I would hope that in a short time, this council would see that this policy was not well advised and that it should be rescinded in its entirety. In the short term, I would ask that they do what is prudent and seek counsel on the current state of public health and legal advice. It is certain that the foundation upon which this policy was based, only vaccination will prevent the spread of this virus, was and is now incorrect. In closing, my ask of this township council is that they direct the CAO and the HR representative for the township to review this municipal vaccination policy on at minimum a monthly basis due to the fact that the landscape in the area of this policy is changing rapidly. It is our understanding that the information upon which this policy was based was provided in September of 2021 and has not been updated since. At that time, it was thought that a double vaccination would end the pandemic. This has proven to be far from truth at this time, and the policy at current is long overdue for review. I thank you for your time.
And I thank you for your comments, which you, of course, are indeed entitled to. Before I ask council if they have any questions, I'm going to turn it to our CEO, Alana, and our fire chief, Chuck, who perhaps can get some additional clarity on the issue. Alana, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council. Certainly the information changes rapidly, and we all understand that. The information that we continue to receive is that being vaccinated prevents the spread of COVID. The policy does have a provision in it to continue to review it and update it if needed, and staff will continue to do that as additional information comes forward. That would be as much as changing the policy, and if fully vaccinated, if that definition changes, again, that's something else that we would have to review. If council wants to give further direction, staff's happy to take that direction and review it otherwise. I will ask Chuck, our fire chief, if he'd like to make some comments, just more with respect to the service and what is happening currently in the landscape. I know there's been some questions from council over the last little bit during our council meetings and otherwise. So maybe our fire chief can just provide a little bit of clarity for you on that.
Chuck?
Mr. Mayor, I have received a lot of questions and it is definitely a challenging time. I'd like to take a few minutes to provide a summary of who we are as a fire department, how we strive to achieve our goals. Volunteer departments are typically designed to get 5 firefighters responding from a fire station, and the ratio is you call 3 and you get 1, so you roster 15. These circumstances are an average and may be influenced by the number of stations available to a community, a call volume, and historical response levels, to name a few. Douro-Dummer Fire Services has 4 fire stations with 60 firefighters. In addition to those 60, we have 1 on leave ending in May and 6 others on leave due to the vaccination policy. One of those 6 is in progress to meet the policy requirements soon. Since 2015, the average number of recruits hired each year is 6, and this year we've hired 7. Of the 7 hired, 3 are fully trained and 4 are enrolled in the recruit course now. We strive to have all new firefighters certified to the provincial standards. In 2014, the province of Ontario moved from their own training standards to the National Fire Protection Association standards. During this time of transition, there was a grandfathering process administered by the province that allowed for equivalency to the new standards based on experience, which was a minimum of 5 years of service, plus a whole host of other criteria. I bring this up to you only to explain that a firefighter hired today, although inexperienced, have skills at a much higher level than within 1 year than a recruit from years gone by, and shouldn't be compared as the same. All of our firefighters are important to us, and some have the ability to contribute more than others due to their circumstances. Of the firefighters that are currently on leave due to the vaccination policy, there are a few that I would consider high contributors, and for them I have been grateful and thankful for their reliability in serving. With a volunteer fire service, the gauge on how these currently inactive firefighters that were historically high contributors will impact us overall, it is difficult to know this soon. The same can be said for a firefighter that retires with many years of service. It's definitely felt, but if we all have done our jobs right, this also creates opportunities for others to adapt, learn, and grow into these voids that are left. The good news is that I have seen others stepping up to fill these voids, and only time will tell how we are performing and what adjustments may be needed, if any, to continue serving the community at the same level. The emergency calls continue to come in, and the calls are being answered. Although we respond to a host of emergencies, I bring you back to the beginning of this message, where our goal is to deploy 5 firefighters per station. This goal is based on actual fire type of calls, and looking back at 3 years of data, which definitely haven't been the easiest 3 years, we've exceeded this benchmark for every station. I would love to have all available firefighters return to active duty, but I understand and respect that due to the situation we're facing and the regulation that is being followed by the corporation, it isn't quite that easy to do, and I will work diligently to keep the level of service council has asked for. Our fire department mission statement to the community has 4 characteristics: being trusted, united, effective, and responsive. Although a small percentage is not united when it regards to the vaccination policy, I believe your firefighters still hold these attributes in high standing and are able to deliver on that mission. The active roster that we have in place today are a great group, and I believe they will continue to answer the call. And like I just say in closing comments, that because our volunteers aren't scheduled, that's part of the reason why we don't exactly know the impacts of all this as it folds out. But as we see those trends, and we'll monitor those things and definitely report back to council if we need to.
Okay, I thank you very much, Chuck and Alana. I will turn it to council if you have any questions. Carl, go ahead. You're muted, Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a question for staff, and I just, our new procedural bylaw, 14.1 makes reference to material for delegations, and it suggests, like one paragraph here says, any supporting material must be provided at the time of the request to the following formats: PDF, PowerPoint, JPEG, or a hard copy. In the agenda, what we just submitted from Ms. Howard, we didn't see it. And I guess our procedural bylaw, as adopted at our previous meeting, was fairly clear on that material. I just
What
wonder,
material, I'm sorry, Councillor Moore, but what material is it that you're referring to?
I'm asking staff for that question.
Staff, Lana Martina, you're the clerk. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Marie did not submit any material in advance. She requested her presentation, and she is here to present that. It does sound like she has a petition, which she may be presenting us after this meeting, which would be in line with our policy.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Martina. Any other questions by members of council? Carl?
I move to receive the delegation.
Move to receive the delegation from Deputy Mayor Moher. Do we have a seconder, please, to that motion? Seconder from Councillor Watt.
And a comment, if I could, please.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Marie, could you spell out again exactly what you were right at the very end of your presentation of what you were asking council to consider, or council and staff, please?
Yes, I'm specifically, Councillor Watt, through the mayor, I am specifically asking that council review on a monthly basis the current vaccination policy for the township because of the fact that the landscape is changing very rapidly. We can see with Omicron variant, for example, that there seems to be no distinction whatsoever between the people that are vaccinated and unvaccinated ending up in ICU. And certainly in terms of presentation in hospital, there's 3 times as many vaccinated landing in hospital as unvaccinated. And so I'm asking that if the premise on which the policy was originally predicated was that the vaccination itself would reduce the incidence and the spread, then obviously that is not the case as of today, although it may have been seen to be the case in September when the policy was created. So what I'm asking is that the policy be regularly reviewed and updated with the assistance from the CAO and the HR representative, that this regularity be at minimum on a monthly basis.
And I believe our CAO has answered that question. It's being reviewed at all times, and I'm sure that the backup support she has includes our medical officer of health. So if those rules change, I'm sure we'll jump in and change them too. Motion on the floor. Councillor Landsman, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Howard, for your presentation. Just a comment about something you've mentioned twice, about the 3 times more people in hospital that have been vaccinated. That may well appear to be the case, but there are many more people vaccinated than non-vaccinated. So that would skew the numbers. Just, you did mention, excuse me, you did mention that several times. That's just my comment on that.
Okay, we're going to move on.
Well,
We're going to move on. There's a motion on the floor to receive the delegations. And Marie, we totally respect your feelings on this. And I know not everyone agrees. And I'm about as sorry as I can be. But we are doing what we think is the right thing. We've decided on the policy. We've approved it twice. And we're doing what we think is the right thing to keep our people safe, with the advice and acknowledgement of our medical officer of health. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry if it doesn't mesh with your thinking. I'm really sorry. But we are doing what we think is the right thing. We're not here to hurt anybody. Motion on the floor to receive the delegation. All in favor? All in favor, nice and high, please. That motion is approved. Thank you, Marie. I can assure you staff will be on this situation at all times. Sorry, what was that, Tom?
If I may, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make another motion if it's at all possible, just to have it on record on this delegation. Is that doable?
What is it you're trying to do? I don't
I
understand.
would like to take Mrs. Howard's or Marie Howard's recommendation and just have it stated that the CAO and our our HR person will review this on a monthly basis, and then it's in writing, and it's not a big deal. We're already doing it likely, but I would just like it stated in a motion that we are doing it. And I would like
Okay.
to make that motion.
If you want to make a motion, will someone second that? Sheila will second it. All in favor? That motion is approved. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on now, we turn to other business staff reports. And this is a review, a status update from Alana with our service delivery review. Alana, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a report just brought forward to give council an update on where we're at currently with some of the recommendations that came out of the service delivery review. The recommendation is that CAO 2022-01 report dated January 18th, 2022 regarding the service delivery review update be received. And additionally, that council appoint a council member to act as the chair of the service delivery review committee as per the terms of reference for the year 2022. I did attach the updated spreadsheet. We've met regularly as a committee to go through these recommendations, and many of them, most of them have at least been initiated and many of them completed. So I wanted council just to have a pretty good overview on what is happening. Sometimes, we bring these once here and there at one at a time when we come to council with things that we need approval for, and you don't really get a big picture on all the work that's being done behind the scenes. So we thought it was a great opportunity to show you what staff's been working on over the last 12 months anyway. I'm happy to answer questions on any of these. And in addition, based on our terms of reference, we do need to ask that council appoint a chair for the balance, I suppose, of your council term to act as a chair for this committee as we move forward.
Okay, good. It's a big, big project. Thank you, Alana. Go ahead, Carl.
Thank you. Just as a comment, as chair of this committee for the past year, I must confess there has been a lot of work completed with this, and take the time to go through the summary if you haven't already done so, because there's a lot of things yet to do, but there's a lot of things that have gone on behind the scenes, very positive things. So I just want to congratulate department heads and staff for moving forward at such vigor to move forward with this needed service delivery plan for our township.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Thanks for your work too over the past while. Tom, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to see Deputy Mayor Mulhern stay as the chair of that if he would accept it. And the reason being that it is a big project. There's been a lot of work done. He's done a great job with the help of staff, and changing ship, or jumping ship, not jumping ship, but changing midway. I think he's been very, very beneficial to it. And I would like to see him take out the rest of the council term if he would agree to it.
You'll make that motion?
I will, yes.
Seconder, please. Heather? Carl, will you accept that nomination, please?
Alana, can you help me with this? And maybe Martina. I think during the service review process, it was suggested that this change from time to time to bring more exposure into it. I'm willing to do it. However, I don't want to circumvent what the service review overall process was to do. If you might have a comment, or Martina might have a comment.
Alana?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't here when the initial service delivery review was completed, so I would ask Martina if she recalls anything specifically to that as far as changing the chair.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't remember specifically about this committee, but I do remember Tammy and her team saying they did want to see more opportunities for councillors to become involved in committees. So it would be up to council how you wanted to proceed. I know there are opportunities coming up with our new committee of the whole process that's going to be starting in February. So that could also be an opportunity for other councillors to lead a committee.
Is there anyone else interested in doing that? It sounds like Carl will if no one else is interested. Anybody else would like to tackle that project? Okay, Carl, will you accept that nomination then?
I will. Thank you.
Okay. Motion's on the floor. All in favor? Okay, Carl, you're our guy. Thank you very much.
Carl.
Item 9.2, and this is a application to rezone. And Martina, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did see Councillor Landsman's hand up before I begin. Not sure if she
Sorry.
had a comment.
Did I miss you, Sheila? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Before we left that, I'm not talking about the motion, but Alana said if there were any questions about the reporting. I just had one question, if I may, through to Alana. And you refer to hiring a planner, like possibly in group with other municipalities and or the county or something. What is the position that we have just seen on our new flowcharts? Is that a planner?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Landsman, when you look at some of these recommendations, there were suggestions that possibly the planner could be outsourced maybe to the county or shared amongst municipalities. So you will notice some of the recommendations. That's not ultimately what the current status or the outcome was. And this is one of those situations where in discussions with other municipalities, it didn't seem that a shared planner was feasible. And the county really didn't have the capacity at this point to take on for the number of hours that we were requiring, although they were trying to help us along the way. To leave our entire planning to be outsourced to the county wasn't feasible. So that's why we came back to council and asked for funding to hire a planner.
Okay.
So yes, we are looking at hiring a planner specifically for our township.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
sorry, Sheila, I didn't see you jump in there.
No worries.
Okay, Martina, go ahead with item 9.2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is application file R1421. There is a report before you dated January 18th, 2022 regarding the application. I'm requesting that council receive the application and that the application be deemed complete. And further that a draft bylaw be brought forward as all of the concerns from the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority have now been addressed. And the application conforms with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. And I'm happy to go into more details if requested.
So we're deeming it complete. Is that it, Martina?
You're deeming it complete. You're acknowledging that all of the issues have been addressed that were required to from Autonomy Region Conservation Authority, and that the draft bylaw be brought forward, which is listed later on the agenda this evening.
Okay, that's great, just to be clear. Okay, Carl, go ahead.
And one other point is the public meeting has already been held. And I think going through the data on this application, it was study after study after study. It must have been cost thousands of dollars. Is there things in there, Martina, that probably at another time could have been avoided at some stage, or is it just a very complex application?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Member, you're right. We did have the public meeting back on December 7th. And then I believe this application wasn't that complex, but there were studies involved because it is situated on a cliff face. And so when things are on a cliff, they need to have hazard studies done and slope stability studies. And it was those two pieces of information that caused the most concern because the initial results from the studies did not make it clear that the slope was stable for building. And so additional information and dialogue between the applicant, their agent, their engineers, and ORCA was required to ensure that the health and safety of everyone involved was going to be in place. And that process did take some extra time. So that's why it did take extra time. And perhaps there was an extra cost, but hopefully the data was already collected. It was just a matter of presenting it effectively.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Any other comments on the report? So, Martina, we received the report and we'll deal with the bylaw later. Is that correct?
That would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. Sheila?
Well, I was just going to make the motion to receive it or to deem it complete and receive it.
To receive the report, I think. Is good.
Just to receive it? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Seconder to that, please. Tom? All in favor? That motion is approved. 9.3, this is our Eorn Cell Gap project. And this major project has only just begun, but the end result is to see cell service improve drastically throughout Eastern Ontario. who wants to speak to this? Martina, go ahead.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the recommendation that is before you is that the report dated January 18th regarding the potential for a wireless communication site near the county forest be received, that council provide an exemption of section 3 of policy D4, which is protocol for radio and telecommunication facilities for Roger Communications, site C8638, and further that staff be requested to review policy D4 to allow for exemptions to projects that are part of the Cell Gap and Eorn's gig project. And again, I'm happy to go through all of the details if you would like.
Okay, I think everyone understands the concept. Carl, go ahead.
Thank you, Martina. And I didn't read it word for word. It's quite detailed and so on, but and I know it's a federal issue to be approved by the federal government, I think transportation or whatever ministry. However, there's no other cell towers in the area, so that we can't ask the question of why aren't they going on Bell or TELUS towers. But the other thing that really alarms local people is flashing red lights. And do you know if there's any plans to put flashing red light on it that could raise the ire of some of the neighbors? Or has there been any discussion on that at all? Or is it going to be hidden from the view of many?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Moher. I'm not sure whether there will be a flashing red light. I'm sure there will need to be some type of light on it to avoid any planes or other airborne aircraft. I believe in the package that Rogers Communication did submit, there were mock-ups of what the tower would look like. And I'm sure as part of their process, which they have committed to, if we pass this report, they will be presenting the specs and the communication package to the public, and it would be circulated to neighbors as well. So there are some draft mock-ups, but that will be clarified as the project moves forward.
Yeah, Carl, I can assure you that Rogers and our engineering people at Eorn have taken all this into consideration, so they're being very careful about it.
Good.
Okay, anybody else? Go ahead, Tom.
No, if you're ready, I would just like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to make the motion that the report dated January 18th be received as requested, and that council provide an exemption of the section 3 of the policy D4 as requested, and that the staff be requested to review policy D4 to allow for exemptions for projects that are part of the Cell Gap with the Eon gig project, because this is something that we really, really need badly.
Yep, very major project, and we're contributing a lot of money to this. Second to that, Carl. Discussion? Go ahead, Heather.
Not so much discussion, Your Worship. However, just a question through you to our clerk. Martina, you had mentioned just previously that that Rogers is committed to putting that public package out to neighbors and to the public, of course. I did take a look at the package. It's quite informative, and I think it will help folks. I'm just curious, how wide of a radius of the proposed location is the distribution to neighbors? I know that as the crow flies, there aren't necessarily many homes there because it's all, undeveloped land, if you will. But I'm just wondering, and they're large parcels of land around it. So how many residents within that catchment area can we hope to keep informed about what's going on?
Through you, Ms. Britt, Councillor Watson, that's a great question, and I don't actually know the exact radius of what their circulation looks like. I do know it needs to be posted in a local newspaper, and I'm not sure if signage needs to be displayed or not, like we do with a Planning Act application, but I can inquire with Roger's staff and get back to you with that information.
Yeah, I think that just as a follow-up, I think that, sorry, Your Worship. I understand it probably is predefined. I guess my concern, however, is, if there's two farms, that are each a couple of 100 acres or hunt camp properties, recreation properties, or what have you, it might not really encompass as many people because of the lot line and that distribution area. So my hope would be, because I know that area is sparsely populated, that we try and distribute or request that Roger distribute to as many residents and be overreach as opposed to underreach a little bit as in terms of the radius. It doesn't impact my support of the motion regardless. It is an important project, but I just think notice is important, a bit wider than normal.
Okay, note to Martina. Motion's on the floor. Anybody else want to speak to it? All in favor? That motion is approved. Committee minutes, other reports. Deputy Mayor Mulher, your update on County Council matters, please.
Okay, a few things. Tomorrow, County Council are going to be reviewing the draft county official plan and project consultation process. There's a resolution, a draft resolution, to basically have it start the process of routing it to the townships, and also start routing it for public meetings as well, asking for input. I would encourage you to spend some time going through it. It's very detailed. There are some addendums that include maps for Douro-Dummer. There's major changes relative to agricultural lands. Growth in our township could be greatly curtailed once this is adopted. The province wished to have the official plan by, I think, the end of July, if I'm not mistaken. So it's quite a tight time frame. Martina has been our representative on the committee, and I must, having spent some time over the weekend going through it, I'm quite impressed with much of the information there, but I think it's important to really look at especially the issues that come to bear with you as councillors, and they would be consents and also zoning issues as well. So that's coming up very soon, and it's a big document, but it's on the county website. It's on the agenda for tomorrow's meeting. You'll probably even have trouble downloading it. It's so large, but I'm sure Martina can help you with that if need be. The other thing that we're doing as far as county is concerned, we're starting the budget process on Thursday. We're not as quick as getting off the mark as Douro-Dummer has been, but I'll give you an overview of some of the things going on. It's a huge project. It's a lot of money, but I'll try to make some highlights for you that you'll have a better understanding. The operating budget, or pardon me, the percent that's being requested has not been approved yet, is just under 4% increase. 2.5% of the 3.98 is capital projects. Because there's so much infrastructure that's outdated and needs replacement, County Council has earmarked 2.5% of each year's levy increase to go towards capital projects. Give you some of the operating costs. Almost 36 million is raised through taxation in the county, for the county. That is spent on such things as county roads, public works, 10 million. Landfill waste management is 4.6 million. The public, the EMS is 17.9. Of course, that's a shared cost with the city, but it's a huge expense. And just unlike that, over the last couple of weeks, the county has added another ambulance to the operation because the offload delay at the Peterborough Regional Hospital, I don't know whether it's improved this week or not, but the last few weeks has been just crazy with a lot of ambulances waiting to offload a patient, but the hospital is not able to take them because of staffing and people off sick and various other things. And on the capital side, just to give you a sampling of some of the things that are going to be done, 1,379,000. If it's approved on Thursday, well, probably won't be approved Thursday, but our first look at it, it's asking us to approve it. County Council is improvement to County Road 4, the Worcester Road, from Highway 28 to Douro third line. And that's 1,379,000. That's major costs there to be. There's going to be some more paving done in the Warsaw Village for up to County Road 38 at the north end, and that's 100,000. And another major expense on the county will be what's sitting out here is 1.5 million for the Gifford Causeway, and that we've already seen in the papers from time to time. So that's a little bit of a sum up of the budget. One other things here is, I think that's about it, unless there's anything else, Jay, that I've missed.
No, I think you've covered the highlights there, Carl. The big deal now is the budget, of course, and we're digging into that this week. So we've only just begun that process. Any questions from Carl on his report? Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Not a question, but actually more of a comment that on Thursday you could pass on to County Council or some of the heads there. The major snowstorm we just had, that was really done well. I mean, that's a big job to clean all that between the county and our township staff. I mean, kudos to them for tackling that the way they did. So if we could pass it on to both, that would be great.
I'll do that.
We're all very aware of that, and we've been passing that on in many ways. Okay, a motion to receive that delegation or that report from Carl. Heather? And Sheila? All in favor? Motion is approved. Next item is Alana's update on our capital projects. You've seen that in your package, and she does this on a regular basis. Very helpful to get a status on the way things are. Alana, did you want to say anything more about it? I think it's self-explanatory.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to note, we don't have listed all the capital projects just yet from the adoption of our 2022 budget, but we will work towards getting it fully updated for you before the next meeting.
Good. Okay. Carl?
Just a comment, pardon me, a couple of questions. The first item regarding the drainage on Television Road, it's mentioned that it's complete. However, it also mentions pending review or peer review by the county. Is the peer review completed as well as yet?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, yes, that was previous when we were waiting on the county to come back with any information that they might have about the drainage. And then once we had the plan for dealing with the beavers from the turtle conservation, we have indicated this as complete. So we'll monitor it into the spring when those beaver bafflers go in, and we'll come back if we need to with any modifications.
Hopefully, and the either the turtle company or the landowners are quite prepared to go ahead with it. That's very positive. The neighbors will be happy. And the second question I had, and maybe this isn't the right spot to put it on, but I think way back when we talked about looking at Airbnb, managing that, is that something that we should tabulate somewhere so we don't lose sight of it? Because even though we're in the middle of winter, I think that thing will come back and bite us very quickly in the spring.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, we actually do have it on here. So it was on for January 2022. I do anticipate I will have something back. I did have a conversation today with North Kawartha, just trying to get some insight on what others were doing, which was part of our discussion last summer. So I will have something back to you for the February 1st meeting.
I apologize. I didn't notice it. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have a motion, Martina, on the floor yet? No. Motion to receive that report. Tom? Sheila? All in favor? That motion is approved. 10.3, Planning Committee minutes from 22nd of December. A motion to receive those minutes. Carl?
I'll move to receive and adopt the recommendation.
Heather is the seconder. All in favor? That motion is approved. Human Resource Committee of September 9th, 2021. Motion to receive those minutes. Sheila? And Tom? All in favor? That motion is approved. Moving ahead to bylaws. Martina, I'll ask you to give us a review of the bylaws. Then I'll ask for one motion to approve all bylaws.
Very good. So the first bylaw we have listed is 2022-01, and this is a bylaw to assume 10-foot strips into the road system. As council may be aware, many of our consent applications have conditions that they must grant the township a 10-foot strip of land along the road for future road widening. So this bylaw brings those into our road system. The next one is bylaw 2022-02. I'm gonna have to get used to the new year. And this is our annual borrowing bylaw, which allows us to borrow throughout the year to maintain our cash flow. The next one is 2022-03. This is the bylaw that allows us to charge our interim tax levy and create levy payments for the year. And the last bylaw is 2022-04. And this is the zoning bylaw amendment for Oates, file R1421 that we discussed earlier in the meeting. And Paul's here as well if you have any questions about the financial bylaws.
Okay, any questions at all about any of the bylaws before I ask for a motion, please? Thank you, Martina. A motion, please, to approve the bylaws. Carl? And a seconder, please. Heather? Discussion on the bylaws. Moved by Carl, second by Heather. All in favor? That motion is approved. Action items under correspondence. We have just the one, and that is from the Township of Tay Valley. What is your choice on that, Carl?
In light of, I think we have already supported that cause, I would move to receive it.
Yeah, I agree. Received by Carl, seconder. Sheila? All in favor? That motion is approved. Information items. We have a note from Otonabee Region Conservation Authority about their transition plan under the Conservation Authorities Act. Just information. Carl, are you moving to receive it?
I'll move to receive it, and I have a short comment.
Seconder? Heather? Go ahead, Carl.
Over the last year or so, there's been a lot of time spent at Otonabee Conservation by senior staff and the board having reviewing this whole change of process. And there's much more to come, but it's step by step changes that are coming down the. And I think Martina and Ilana have received data from time to time relative to those changes, and there will be more.
Okay, thank you. Receiving that item of correspondence. All in favor? Motion is approved. We have no notices of motion that we're aware of. Sheila, do you have one?
No, sorry. Did we miss 12.2, or is that what you put right at the front of the meeting?
That's what we did at the very
Okay.
beginning.
I thought so. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, no notices of motion. Heather?
Sorry, Your Worship, not to belabor it, but the item that Councillor Lanson speaks of, I was hoping that we could maybe make a motion or not even need a motion to send a letter of congratulations to Dr. McGregor. I was expecting to see it come up on 12.1. I apologize. I didn't realize maybe I have an older version of the agenda.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, we can make a motion. That was a given. I guess that's what I was preparing, and Martina was preparing to prepare on behalf of council. But if you want to make that a motion, go ahead.
Sure. So obviously moving to receive the item and send a letter of congratulations to Dr. McGregor on her appointment to the Order of Canada.
Okay, seconder to that. Sheila, all in favor? That's great. Notices of motion. I'm seeing no hands. Any announcements of community interest? Seeing no hands, we have no closed session. We have a confirming bylaw, 2022-05. Carl?
Yep.
And Tom, all in favor. Motion approved. And a motion to adjourn the meeting. Sheila and Heather, all in favor? That is approved. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being with us to our first meeting in January. We'll see you again, of course, as we wrap up our final year of this term of council. Thanks, everybody. Please
Happy New Year,
stay
everyone.
safe, and let's